There's a lot of loneliness in the way we're experiencing our lives in America these days, maybe in Europe too, probably, but particularly in America, I think. There's a lot of loneliness if you age far enough or get sick in the process.
I am recording. Tell me your name again.
Pat Cook.
Do you know roughly how many people you've been paired with over the years?
I would guess 20.
About 20?
Mm-hmm. Maybe more, because I've usually had 2 at a time, so it could have been 20 to 30.
Like, how did you find your way to Friends & Co?
It's a long story.
Excellent.
When I was in college, I did more drinking than studying, but I was in a fraternity, and the fraternity went on a field trip to a mental hospital in Minnesota, just for us to go visit and learn a little about it. And when we got there, and we were going to find a place to park, I looked out the window and I saw this woman who looked so in pain. And I just felt this compassion from my heart. And I don't know that I'd ever felt that before. So it was a really moving experience. Just, I didn't know there was a feeling like this. What is that? It was compassion, you know.
How did you come across then Friends & Co? And maybe it wasn't named that at the time.
It wasn't. It was Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. And the executive director at that time was, I was referred to him. I don't remember why. I was looking for work. I was changing careers from the life insurance business to, I wanted to do fundraising. And so he was gracious enough to invite me over, and we had a nice conversation, and I learned a little bit more about it. And eventually I ended up getting work in that field. It wasn't necessarily from him. That was it. And so then afterwards, when I did retire, I remembered it. And I came over and visited with, he was still the director at the time, and I volunteered. So I think that experience I had in the hospital that day reminded me of this, that I felt that feeling towards elderly people. And this might be a time when I could continue to feel that. So I drove over to see her, and I knocked on the door, and she said yes. And came and opened the door. She was about this tall, maybe this tall, had a nice little dress on. She was in an apartment for seniors. And she and I started chatting. We had a thing in common. We both did pottery. She did pottery for much of her life, and I'd done pottery for a lot of my life too. Once we struck on that common point, we were off and running. And she was so darling. She was lovely as could be. And it turned out that I said, do you do pottery? And she said, yeah, but not now, because I kind of retired. And I said, oh, I do pottery right over here. It was about half a mile from where I did pottery. I said, would you ever like to come over and feel the clay again? I'd love it. So she came over. I talked to the teacher for that class, and she had a group of women, about 60-year-old women. And we went over, and the teacher knew I was bringing her. And she said, would you like to try throwing some pots? And she said, I'd love to. So she leans this little body forward, and they put this white clay, which is much more difficult to use normally. And these other women were sitting in there at their wheels around looking at her. And she plops this clay down. Have you ever seen a wheel? Anybody? Yeah. So she plops it right in the center, and she bends way down like this. And she's bringing this pot up like this. Oh, and she brings it up, and it's perfect. And she just stops. And all these women start applauding. And she looked around. It's so great. We found all kinds of things to do. We'd go out for drives, places that were pretty, and we'd listen to music, especially the album Oklahoma. We'd go out and sit by the lake, and we'd sing together, Oklahoma. And she had a beautiful voice, and it was just really fun. Well, mostly I feel really grateful that I had this opportunity to be with that person, because I've loved that person like a family member. So, and I've been to quite a few funerals, and I've been through that process of them right up to the end. I mean, not a lot of sitting by people's beds, but I've done that too. But I mean, I just feel like it's a great way to end what's been a great experience. You met somebody, you found enough commonalities to be able to enjoy life together, and then they die, and well, you feel like your part in their life was meaningful for them, so they took something after death with them that they can be grateful for. Yeah.
Why do you keep volunteering for more? Why?
Well, I find it really fulfilling. I think that, why wouldn't I? Once I've experienced it and I know what I can bring to someone else and what someone else brings to me, why would I stop doing that? It's like not seeing your best friend.
If someone were thinking, Pat, about joining Friends & Co., like as a member or a volunteer, what would you tell them?
Well, you have the potential of having something happen in your life that will be really extraordinary. And I think it's likely that it'll happen for you, I would say, because I think the odds are pretty good. And if they ask me why, what are you talking about? And I said, for one thing, the staff is a lot of fun. And that's good. And then the people that they pair you up with, they work hard at making sure they find somebody that'll be compatible with you. So even if you're nervous going out to meet somebody on the first visit, you know that they've already given a lot of thought for that. And if they haven't, once in a while, you get somebody. There's been times when I've been paired with someone I just didn't feel like it'd be a good match, but that's very rare. So I'd say, have a good time. If you're nervous or uncomfortable, bring someone with you for the first few times. No reason not to. And give it a try. I've really expanded my family over these years. I had a family of 15 people that I got to be really deeply good friends with. That's extraordinary. That's a gift to me that Friends & Co. provided.